that he is pretending to want me, pretending attraction, pretending that the woman lying beneath his hands is the one he desires. I flinch because I am convinced that my body, shaped by motherhood and sacrifice, is no longer enough. I remember the first nights after my second pregnancy. My belly sagged, my thighs carried traces of sleepless nights and nursing, my breasts had changed shape, and I stared at myself in the dim light of the bathroom, wondering how he could still want me. When he came to bed, I felt his hand pause, subtle, almost imperceptible, and my heart sank. I couldn't tell if it was hesitation, fatigue, or disinterest, but my mind filled in the silence with fear, and that was enough to make me shrink from his touch. Intimacy without confidence is a cruel paradox. I want closeness, I crave reassurance, I long to feel desired, and yet the moment he reaches for me, my own insecurities rise up to block me. My body becomes a battleground where desire and doubt clash. I tense, I withdraw, I hesitate. Each touch becomes a test I feel I might fail. Each glance becomes a question. Does he truly want me, or is he merely going through the motions? I lie awake sometimes, counting the distance between us. His presence is near, yet I feel more alone than I have ever been. I want him to pull me close without me asking. I want desire to be given freely, without calculation or doubt. But desire no longer comes naturally between us. It has been replaced by caution, restraint, and a careful politeness that leaves me feeling abandoned even in bed beside him. I avoid undressing until the room is dark, pretending fatigue or forgetfulness. I cover myself with blankets, hoping he won't notice the areas I feel most vulnerable about. I do this because I cannot bear to expose my body to judgment, even imagined judgment. I cannot risk his attention feeling obligatory rather than genuine, his touch feeling polite rather than passionate. And yet, I yearn for it. I yearn to feel chosen, to feel desired, to feel seen. I ache to feel the closeness we once shared, the intimacy that required no negotiation, no courage, no pretense. But the years and the pregnancies have left me cautious, afraid, hesitant. My desire is constantly weighed against the rejection, the fear that he might prefer someone younger, firmer, untouched by motherhood. The cruelest part is that he has never rejected me outright. He is here, he loves, he touches, he smiles, and yet his presence feels cautious, measured, restrained. Love is there, but desire feels conditional, fleeting, fragile. It is the kind of love that doesn't announce itself in hunger or urgency. It is love without fire, affection without passion. And I feel abandoned in that quiet restraint, left wondering if the man beside me longs for the woman I am or the woman I once was. Being naked is no longer intimacy, it is exposure. Every curve, every softness, every imperfection is evidence of the life I've given, the sacrifices I've made. And every moment I carry the fear that giving everything might have cost me the one thing I crave the most, the certainty that I am still desired, still chosen, still a woman in his eyes. Intimacy without confidence is exhausting. It's a constant negotiation with your body, your mind, your fears, and your partner. It's walking on a tightrope over the silent question that haunts every touch. Does he still want me, or am I only the mother of his children now? I lie there, trembling slightly, wishing for reassurance, but terrified to ask, hoping for passion, but fearing only indifference, hoping for closeness, but expecting distance. And in that tension, I understand the cruel truth. Intimacy without confidence is not absence of desire, it is presence of fear. It is being so acutely aware of what might be lost that even what remains cannot fully heal the heart. I used to think my fear began with him, that it was born from his glances, his pauses, his measured touch. But now I realize it didn't start there. My fear is older, deeper, and heavier. It began long before I met him, long before love and marriage and motherhood became my reality. It began with words whispered casually, stories overheard, and lessons learned without ever being taught. I grew up hearing them, women being replaced, left behind, forgotten. Mothers, aunts, neighbors, everyone seemed to carry a quiet warning. Beauty fades, youth slips away, and a woman who is no longer desired is a woman who is forgotten. They didn't say it outright, not always, but the implication was there, threaded into casual comments about age, appearance, husbands, and what men notice. I learned early that a woman's worth could be measured, judged, and found lacking based on skin, shape, and youth. I carried those lessons quietly, storing them in the corners of my mind. I carried them into adolescence, into young adulthood, into marriage. I carried them unknowingly into my pregnancies. Every stretch mark, every softening curve, every line I earned through motherhood became evidence I feared he might measure against another woman, another body, untouched by life, untouched by time. And because I had been taught to believe my value was fragile, I felt powerless before the inevitable changes. Motherhood didn't just change my body, it awakened this old trauma. I had sacrificed so much, my comfort, my sleep, my energy, my confidence, and I had done it willingly, for love, for children. And yet I began to feel that sacrifice wasn't enough, that somewhere my husband might unconsciously compare me to women who hadn't given so much, who hadn't carried life in their bones. And that fear, that haunting possibility, filled me with guilt and shame for even thinking it. I never spoke about this trauma, not to friends, not to family, not to him. How could I? It wasn't about him. It was about all the subtle lessons I had internalized, the stories I had absorbed, the fears that had lived quietly in me for decades. And yet it shaped the way I felt about him, about myself, about intimacy, about desire. It made me hyper-aware, constantly scanning for signs that I might not measure up, that I might be silently replaced, that love could exist without desire. Pregnancy multiplied these fears. Each new life added evidence that my body was changing in ways irreversible, visible, undeniable. I would look at myself in mirrors and see not just a mother, but a woman whose worth seemed increasingly tied to a fading youth. I would catch his eyes on occasion and wonder if he saw me, or the body I used to be, or the body he might now silently compare to younger, firmer, untouched women. And every glance I imagined, every hesitation I felt, echoed the trauma I had carried all my life, that a woman's value is fragile, conditional, replaceable. The most painful part is knowing that none of this is his fault. He hasn't rejected me, he hasn't left, but the fear lives in me, amplified by my history, whispered into life by voices that long preceded our marriage. It whispers in the pauses, the silences, the unspoken questions I can't stop asking. Am I enough? Is my body enough? Is my desire enough? Would he choose me or someone else if given the chance? I realize now that my insecurity is a combination of old wounds and present fears. The trauma I never spoke about intersects with the changes my body has endured. It shapes the way I flinch at intimacy, the way I shrink under his gaze, the way I compare myself to every younger, untouched woman who passes by. It convinces me that abandonment can exist without departure, that rejection can live in silence, and that desire is always conditional. This is the truth I carry quietly every day, the fear that my worth is measured not by the love I give, but by the body I inhabit. And because that fear has been in me longer than him, it is patient, persistent, and relentless. It shapes every intimate moment, every thought about myself, every glance I imagine him giving elsewhere. The trauma I never spoke about has made me hypersensitive, painfully aware, and deeply insecure. It has made me question love, desire, and my place in his eyes, and it has taught me that sometimes the hardest battles are not fought outside, but inside, in the quiet spaces where fear, memory, and doubt intersect, whispering that I might not be enough and that perhaps I never will be. I used to believe my fear began with him, that it was born from the subtle changes in his gaze, the way his touch sometimes hesitated, or the silence that had grown between us. But now I understand that fear is far older than our marriage. It didn't start with him. It started with words I heard when I was a child, with stories whispered and repeated about women being replaced, about husbands looking elsewhere, about beauty fading and worth being measured by appearance. I can still hear the echoes of those warnings in my head. A man always notices the younger one. Beauty is fleeting, and if you lose it, you lose him. You must always take care of your body or someone else will. They weren't said maliciously, they were casual, passing comments, but they planted seeds, seeds that grew quietly inside me, hidden but persistent, waiting for the right moment to bloom into the fears I now carry. I carried that fear into adolescence, into adulthood, and eventually into marriage. I carried it silently, never speaking of it because who would understand? Who could understand that a child's overheard remark could shape the way a woman perceives herself decades later? That a warning meant to prepare me for life could become a lens through which I measure every glance, every touch, every unspoken thought of a man I love. Pregnancy magnified those fears. Each child changed my body in ways I could not reverse. My belly stretched, my skin softened, my breasts sagged, my thighs carried new weight. I looked at myself in mirrors and saw a map of sacrifice, evidence of lives I had created and nurtured, but also a body that seemed to drift further from what the world told me a man desires. I felt the weight of that knowledge pressing down on me. If love could be measured by desire, by admiration, by hunger, then what chance did I have? I see now that my trauma shaped the way I interpret him. It tells me to read too much into pauses, to dissect every glance, to imagine rejection where none may exist. It tells me that even kindness, even patience, even love could hide disappointment or a longing for someone else. And because this trauma has lived inside me so long, it is patient, persistent, and insidious. It finds its way into every intimate moment, every interaction, every silent space between us. The most painful truth is that none of this is his fault. He has never left me, never abandoned me, never spoken words meant to wound. And yet the fear persists, like a shadow that refuses to leave, whispering that I am never enough, that my body is no longer enough, that the love I give, whole, unwavering, sacrificial, is not enough to secure desire, attention, or the certainty that I am still seen as a woman, not only as a mother. This trauma intersects with my body's changes after pregnancy, making me hypersensitive to every detail, the way he touches me, the way he looks at me, the way he may glance at someone else, at a younger, firmer, untouched woman. Every subtle shift feeds the old wound, reminding me that a woman's worth, I was taught, is fragile, conditional, and constantly at risk. And yet, the cruelty of it is quiet. It lives in the silence between words, in the hesitation before intimacy, in the pauses where love should feel effortless. It tells me that abandonment doesn't need to be dramatic. It can exist as absence in presence, as indifference masked by kindness, as desire quietly slipping into memory instead of dwelling in the here and now. The trauma I never spoke about has made me hyper-aware, fragile, and insecure. It has taught me to flinch at touch, to question affection, to doubt love even when it is offered freely. It has taught me that my body, softened, marked, changed, is a symbol not just of what I have given, but of what I fear I may have lost, my place as a woman, a lover, a desirable being in the eyes of the man I married. Every day I carry it quietly, in every glance, every hesitation, every thought of myself compared to others. It is a constant companion, whispering that I may never be enough, reminding me of the stories I heard as a child, and shaping the way I experience love, desire, and intimacy. This is the trauma I never spoke about, the fear that my worth is fleeting, conditional, and tied to a body that has changed in ways I cannot reverse. It is the fear that no matter how much love I give or how many children I bear, I may still be silently abandoned, replaced in desire if not in life. And it has shaped everything I feel about myself, my husband, and the intimacy that once felt effortless, but now feels like walking a tightrope over a chasm I fear I cannot survive. I gave my body to motherhood willingly. Every sleepless night, every stretch mark, every ache and exhaustion was a choice I made out of love, for my children, for the life we were building. I embraced the changes, convinced that the joy of motherhood would outweigh any cost to my body, my confidence, or my sense of self. I thought love would be enough to make me feel whole, even as my body shifted and softened with each new child. But sometimes that love comes with a bitter aftertaste. I resent how invisible my sacrifice feels. I resent that the labor of carrying life, birthing life, and nurturing it is noticed by everyone else, by friends, family, strangers, but seems almost invisible to the man I gave everything to. I stand before him, tired and scarred and softened, and I wonder, does he see me? Does he see the woman who carried life in her body, who bore the weight of everything with courage and strength, or only the softened curves and the fatigue that accompany it? Motherhood has made me proud, but it has also made me afraid. I am proud of what my body has done, what it has endured, what it has created. Yet I am afraid that the very body that brought life into this world is no longer a body that inspires desire. That the love I feel, the care I give, the sacrifices I make are not enough to secure his hunger, his admiration, his longing. I love fiercely, but in the quiet corners of my mind, I feel abandoned in ways I cannot voice. Sometimes I wonder if love should require me to disappear to be appreciated. If I am too visible, too tired, too soft, too real, does that make me less desirable? Do I have to mask the evidence of my sacrifices, hide the changes motherhood has brought, in order to be seen as a woman worth wanting? It feels cruel, this unspoken rule. I gave my body, my energy, my youth, my shape, and sometimes it feels as though my husband only notices the parts that remain untouched by time, the remnants of the woman I once was. And yet, he is here. He loves me. He does not leave. But love without desire, love without hunger, love without recognition of sacrifice, it feels hollow. It feels like survival, like tolerance. And I am left questioning whether my life, my body, my devotion is enough to make me feel wanted, truly chosen, truly seen as the woman I am beneath the exhaustion and softness. I am caught between pride and grief. Pride in my resilience, in my ability to give life and nurture it. Grief for the parts of myself that have been quietly erased. My confidence, my freedom to feel beautiful, my certainty that I am still desired. Motherhood has reshaped me, physically and emotionally, and while I am grateful for it, I also feel the sting of what has been lost. The admiration, the longing, the unhesitating desire that once made me feel fully alive as a woman. Sometimes I stare at him and wonder if he remembers the woman I was before children, before exhaustion, before life layered over my body like so many invisible weights. I love him, I admire him, and yet in those quiet moments I feel resentment. Resentment that the body that has given everything is no longer enough. Resentment that the sacrifices made out of love are not mirrored in desire, and resentment that I am made to feel invisible even when I am present. I gave my body to motherhood willingly. I gave my heart, my energy, my youth. But I am learning that love, even deep and abiding love, can sometimes coexist with loneliness, invisibility, and quiet abandonment. And that realization is as painful as it is inescapable. I gave my body to motherhood willingly. Every stretch mark, every scar, every softened curve was a testament to love. Love for my children, love for the life we were building together. I surrendered myself without hesitation, convinced that joy and fulfillment